please allow me to bring to the stage the Senior Country Manager, Ghana, Benin, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Togo International Finance Corporation, Mr. Kyle Kelhofer.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Excellencies, distinguished guests, all protocols observed, colleagues, friends. This may be a bit of an atypical, unique presentation, because I'm going to share a bit about IFC, a bit about myself, and a bit about not just global opportunities, but global experiences in SMEs. Just for some background for those of you who may not be aware, IFC, or International Finance Corporation, is the private sector supporting institution in the World Bank Group. In the World Bank Group, we're a collection of four primary entities. First, the World Bank, which supports the public sector. IFC, that supports the private sector with both investment and advisory. MIGA, which is an International Guarantee Agency, and then ICSID, which is a dispute resolution. IFC, we provide over $30 billion of finance globally, annually, in addition to advisory and technical support for firms, for governments, and for stakeholders. Here in Ghana, we provided over $3 billion over the past 10 years, and this ranges from trade finance to long-term equity with all sorts of instruments in between. But we're delighted to be here in Ghana for over 35 years now. Personally, myself, I first visited Ghana in 1998 for IFC, and I've been coming and going since. But also, I lived in Vietnam from 2000 to 2001 for IFC. I lived here on the ground in Ghana from 2006 to 2010 as the deputy head and head of institutions. And then I went on to manage IFC operations in Bangladesh, Nepal, and Bhutan for 4 years. And then I went on to manage IFC operations in Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos for the past 7 years. I've returned, Sankofa, a few months ago. And I'm delighted to be back, okay? And with that, I'm delighted to share these experiences, particularly from Asia, where I think there's a lot to share. But there's also a lot of history between Ghana and Asia, and maybe some in the room may not be aware of this, okay? Kwame Nkrumah, the father of this modern Ghana, was good friends with Ho Chi Minh, the father of modern Vietnam. These were independence movements, mobilizing peoples and societies and liberalizing cultures from the whatever you want to call it, the problems of colonialism, okay? In Vietnam, the French, okay? Here, the English, okay? They were friends. Unfortunately, or some may be aware, Kwame Nkrumah was actually on his way to mediate what in Vietnam we call the American War, but those international we call the Vietnam War. He was there to mediate the war between the Americans and the Vietnamese. And he was changing planes in Beijing on his way to Hanoi to see his friend Ho Chi Minh, and that's when the coup took place. This relationship goes back. And I think this relationship continues. And I think this relationship can go forward, and we can continue to learn from each other as countries. Countries, new countries, young countries, unique countries, okay? So yes, Vietnam had the ravages of the Vietnam War, and then the post-war restrictions that involved famine and desolation. The earth was poisoned in Vietnam by Agent Orange, by Agent Purple, by Agent Yellow, okay? And it's poisoned to this day. In parts of the country, you still cannot walk because of landmines and because of unexploded ordnance. Bangladesh, where I also worked, had a brutal independence war in the 1970s. Over 3 million died in a tragic genocide, and unspeakable atrocities were committed against women, okay? Yet, despite this basket case of a country, it is what it has become today. Okay? And Bangladesh, maybe they could do a better job of marketing, but very few people know that the average income per capita in Bangladesh is now higher than the average per capita income in India, okay? Or the poverty rate is actually on scale with the United States, okay? These are tremendous achievements, okay? Don't get me wrong, Ghana's also come quite a long way, okay? And the Ghana I'm here today is very different from the Ghana 15 years ago, and I'm delighted to be here and see these improvements today over the last 15 years, okay? But for me, these comparisons are a lot to talk about. But I'm gonna first just share just from the SME issues that we come across. With the IFC, we've worked with SMEs around the world, but my own experiences in these countries. First and foremost, everybody thinks their country's the worst. Everybody thinks their country's the hardest. Everybody thinks their government is the most difficult, their market the most difficult, their regulations. The Vietnamese are jealous of the space we have here in Africa or in Ghana. The unlimited water supply, the sun, the farmland, okay? The Bangladeshis would love to have the opportunities in Vietnam, okay? So everybody thinks it's the worst, okay? So for me, it's very simple. SME problems are universal. SME solutions are local. And this includes leveraging other global experiences. I would love to see more SME exchange programs. Land access is a universal issue for SMEs around the world. And resolving that, though, is unique. In Vietnam, you have the party system. Here, you have the chieftaincies, okay? Security, collateral frameworks are dependent on local histories, local government histories, et cetera. Skills, staffing vary widely, but are always a problem. And then, of course, government, okay? And it's not just government standards, but the transparency and consistency, okay? But these are universal problems in SMEs. So if you're dealing in this room, I can guarantee you your colleagues in Vietnam and Bangladesh are having the exact same issues, okay? Also, universally, SMEs, or anybody, access to finance is a problem, okay? But access to finance is actually not the problem. It's a symptom of the underlying problem. Whether it's land, whether it's collateral registry. Quite frankly, I've never met a businessman that has said access to finance is easy. When I do, please let me know, okay? Okay. My cousin Vinny in Pittsburgh does not have enough money, okay? Everywhere in the world, entrepreneurs do not have enough money, okay? Also, following what Kosi was saying, find a partner. Find somebody that knows more than you. Bring them on board. Maybe not forever, but bring them on board. I'm always amazed, some of the most successful corporates I've worked with around the world, here in Ghana, Bangladesh, Vietnam, started with somebody, an entrepreneur, getting somebody, either a respected elder locally, a respected former government official locally, a respected larger businessman locally, or maybe foreign, and Vietnamese seeking out Japanese, Korean Americans here from Europe, from Nigeria, who knows where, okay? But find a partner and learn from them. It reduces the risk. It doubles the level of experience. It doubles the level of basis you ground. Pain shared is easier pain. And play the long game with them, okay? That I've always seen as a universal success. Lastly, well, in addition, the golden rule, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Most SME businesses fail. It's not about failing, it's about getting up and trying again. Vietnam actually has the highest failure rate in the world. And maybe you need to live there to see it, because every week you drive down the street, something's closed and something's reopened, okay? It's about 80–90% of SMEs fail, okay? But it was like this around the world. I mean, maybe in the room we're too young here to remember the Apple I, which was a failure, or actually what Steve Jobs did before that, which was the long-distance phone company, which was actually quasi-illegal, okay? That also failed, okay? So everybody's failed. It's about getting up and trying again. In addition, what everyone knows is generally worthless. It's about what you know that is unique, and about what your business knows that is unique. What do you know that somebody hasn't done before, or hasn't been done here before, or hasn't been done in that way before, or hasn't been done with that group before? IFC, we like to see companies that grow both business and standards. If you grow both, you grow your bottom line, but then you grow your market share, you grow the number of stakeholders you can work with, the potential partners you can have, and you improve your access to finance. And then lastly, foreign direct investors are your friend. Foreign investors are the friends of everybody in this room. Okay, this is the legacy of foreign investment around the world. It is the trunk of the tree, and then SMEs become the branches or the roots for the supply chain, for the transportation, for the service providers, for the workers, okay? But FDI is ultimately the friend of SMEs around the world. And IFC, we've been delighted to work with FDI linkages programs, particularly in Vietnam and in Bangladesh, and I'd love to work with my friend Yofi on those more here. Now, on global opportunities, I'm sure there'll be a number of people in this room commenting across a range of the opportunities, particularly in this era today, thanks to digital infrastructure and innovation, the wealth of global commerce, global fulfillment opportunities, global export opportunities, global services, software, call services, the creatives industry, how to monetize this culture, how to monetize this unique creativity here in Ghana. There's a range of opportunities across all that work. What I struggle with is that I've seen very large-scale international software companies relocate to Vietnam, actually employ Ghanaians in Vietnam. Over 500 to 1,000 employees, of which some are Ghanaian. And why don't I see more of those here in Ghana? Okay, and maybe that's a riddle I hope to solve in my upcoming employment term here. Also tourism. Boundless opportunities in tourism in this country, and for SMEs in particular that can leverage the unique culture aspects. So those are the large scale or range of opportunities out there that I'm sure others will go into. But the two I want to go into particular are higher value addition and higher value. Today, Vietnam has a unique competitive export competitiveness opportunity. It can be done by FDI, it can be done by SMEs, it can be done by local corporates, or it can be done by all three working together. And it's very simple. Even though the Ghana that I'm here today, I'm happy I'm here today and not 15, 20 years ago. It's definitely much better. Okay? But the reality is 20, 30 years ago, the wages in Vietnam were 1/2 that of Ghana. So the Nikes of the world and the Samsungs of the world, they obviously went to Vietnam to build their manufacturing plants. So obviously rice exports grew in Vietnam. Obviously fish and catfish production grew in Vietnam. Today the wages in Vietnam are double the wages of Ghana. So now you see industries fleeing Vietnam as they're fleeing China and moving to other parts of the world, including Ethiopia and Tanzania, and yes, starting in Ghana. Okay? Same thing in Bangladesh. Wages were 1/2, and now they're 50% more than Ghana. Okay? So this raw competitiveness of wages that didn't exist 20 years ago is an opportunity today for people in this room and for this country to bring more and better and higher value jobs and FX earnings and macro stability. In addition, we have international logistics. We have a world-class port sitting down here in Tema and right next door over in Lome. We have a reliable power supply, domestic power supply through the Leone gas system. Okay? Proximity to markets, not just the enormous market in Africa, but to Europe and US, and we've seen how supply chains were globally disrupted over the last year or two. Proximity matters, and it's a big difference now that the ship only takes 5 days versus 14 days. Okay? Security, stability. I can walk down the street in Accra at 11 o'clock at night and not worry about a thing. It's not like that in most countries of the world. Okay? Trade preferences. A previous speaker alluded to these trade preferences here that Ghana has that are actually don't exist in Asia or diminishing rapidly. So this whole export advantage and this opportunity, and you layer on top what's happening today is there's a mass delinking going on with China, and you see industries fleeing China. There's not enough room in Vietnam. There's not enough exposure in Bangladesh. They don't want to be in India or Indonesia. So this is a unique opportunity, I think, of today's Ghana to leverage. The numbers are enormous. Bangladesh has over 4 million apparel jobs and over 25 indirect jobs, i.e. through SMEs and service providers within the country, providing over 32 billion in exports. Just need a little piece of that to come to Ghana, and a lot of people in this room could have very, very successful businesses. 30 years ago, Vietnam was known for famine and people were starving. Today, the largest exporters of fish and fish and fish products globally, EU 36 billion, China 21 billion, Norway 9 million, Vietnam 8 million. Fourth largest in the world on fish and agriculture exports. Why? Because it leverages a lot of people living near a large freshwater supply that flows into the ocean, with a large world-class port next door. You have the Mekong River, you have the Ho Chi Minh City, or you have the Red River and you have Haiphong. Vietnam, I look over at the Volta River, I look at the Tema Port. Why not Vietnam? Why not Ghana, I'm sorry. It could easily take place here. Similar story on rice. Access to land, standards, regulatory framework. And so with that, I know there are some problems in today's economy. And they're making it tough on everyone, okay? But as I look at other countries around the world going through similar problems, the fundamentals of this economy are still solid. The agriculture sector is still solid. The commodity sector is still solid. The oil and gas, the services is still solid. Other countries, and I'm not going to name them, have a fundamental problem. It's like having a car. The engine in this car still works. In other countries, the engine's not working. So this country's going to rebound quickly. It's how those in this room will choose to leverage that rebound and this unique opportunity, given this unique value addition opportunity for Ghana today. And I'm going to close on saying, after living around the world and quite frankly raising 2 Ghanaian children in my Ghanaian household, David Kofi and Maya Adjua, that to this day they say their hardest school growing up was here in Ghana, that I do think I sent them to the best schools in Bangladesh and Vietnam, but they say they were easier. And without a doubt, this is one of the most educated countries in the world, full stop. Okay? And you compare it at levels of business, levels of government, levels of entrepreneurs. This is one of the most educated places in the world. And what I'm trying to say is, you in the room here are some of the smartest people in the world, okay? With one of the best opportunities in the world right in front of you as far as value addition and higher value jobs. It's not if, it's how. Thank you very much.